We spent all our summers from the time I was not quite 1 year old on Green Lake, on the north shore of Green Lake. My dad was born in New London and my mother in Wilmer. So they're Candy, County folks, but we went to school in Minneapolis, and my dad made his living there in business. But as soon as school was out, we'd get in the car. We'd spent less than a day there. My folks thought maybe they thought we might get into trouble in the big city, but really what they wanted us to do is grow up in the outdoors. And both my mother and dad were really interested in the outdoors and loved northern Candy County and instilled it in all four of us. So we spent all our summers there. We came back to Minneapolis the day before school started.
I want to ask you a little bit more about Stony Ridge and your involvement with Prairie Pothole Day. So tell us a little bit about that. How you got started and what it's meant to you over the years.
Well, this will be our 30th one, and in the background you might see docks going in for the dog trial and so forth, and tents are going up all over, and we have work days, and this award should be shared with the committee people that get ready for Prairie Pothole Day. And you're looking at one of them that was here right at the very beginning, John Lindstrom. And Phil Iversley was the first guy in charge of shotgun shooting over the ridge. And he's here today too. And I understand, Phil, we appreciate you saying a few words here coming up. But that was a long time ago, 30 years. And 31 years ago in Anoka County, they began a celebration called Game Fair, which is remarkably popular. It's a commercial event, whereas Prairie Pothole Day is an entirely volunteer event, and it's a fundraiser for the Minnesota Waterfowl Association. But we copied that idea, and they copied it from game fairs in Europe, because that's about all that's left there for hunting and fishing, is getting together in some public place. And sometimes people really can't even hunt over there because they can't afford it and so forth. So Game Fair is from Europe and then via Anoka County. And here somebody said, well, it must be all about duck hunting, but it isn't. About half of the people that come here to the farm are kids, and all of the kids' events are free, including climbing wall and archery and baby gun, and then we have an environmental learning tent where there are turtles and frogs and snakes that they wrap around their neck and so forth. So this has developed into a family situation, and sure, we have shooting over the ridge there, which is an important part of the fundraising, shotgun events with sporting clays and clay pigeons, and we have an archery course back in the woods, 3D course for hunting folks. But it's gradually developed. We were pleased 30 years ago, and you can remember this, that 500 people actually showed up that day, and we thought it might just be ourselves and maybe our family members. And people seem to like it, and they keep coming back. And we don't charge admission for this event, so we don't know for sure. But on a good day, probably 4,000 people come down the road there and enjoy it, and they're kind of swallowed up. We use about 120 acres of this property for the event. Well, what I really like to do is teach students, and especially, for instance, on the open house day out at Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center, it used to be even a 3-day event where all the 6th graders in the area would come out there, and then they would come and have wood duck as part of it. We teach from the wood duck boxes, of course, and then they would go to forestry, soils, recycling, and they'd go through all the different courses for 45 minutes each. And that is really fun to do. And there are lots of opportunities for teaching volunteers. And it can be one by one. Maybe you want to see a neighbor next door that doesn't get outside and spends a lot of time playing Game Boys and really would benefit and have fun from being outdoors. And so it isn't that you have to work with some group or, for instance, in New London, there's a wonderful dedicated teacher by the name of Laura Molinar, and she, this year, I understand, will be doing all the science teaching, and we've been doing wood duck boxes over there in the nature area for now 17 years.
And the Monarch Project.
And the Monarch Project, that's right. They come out here to the farm every Wednesday, the kids, and they keep doing it. They want to do it. And once the kids get involved with projects like that, all of a sudden you discover, hey, it's in their genes. I mean, to be outdoors, and it doesn't involve just the thumbs working a Game Boy, and they really get into the Monarch thing and the wood duck stuff as well. And so
Kay, let me ask you about any suggestions that you might have on how people can give back to the community in the areas that you've worked in, primarily the art world.
I think people need to follow their own interests and their own heart as far as what they like to do. And if they can find what they really like to do and give back to the community in that way, I think that they will have an enjoyable time and people will benefit from it.
That's right. Okay. So I know that here at Stony Ridge, you've been involved in something called the Minnesota Land Trust, where you have created a conservation easement so that this area is going to be protected forever, as the sign says as you drive in. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Minnesota Land Trust is a growing organization, a wonderful organization, and does work all over the state of Minnesota. And if you're a landowner and you can see that there's great value in your land for generations to come, and you wish to see it not developed, and then you can contact them, and it may be something that they would be interested in helping you manage for the future. And for Kay and I, we decided now our property over the years has grown to about 400 acres, and we decided that we would like to keep this intact in the short run for our family that really loves to come out here, and then we can see the value for something like Prairie Pothole Day for the public. So we worked with them, and in the plan, in the contract, Prairie Pothole Day, for instance, can continue on as long as volunteers want to hold fundraisers out here for a worthy cause like the Minnesota Waterfowl Association and wetland restoration, and it can go on and on. And the other part of that is that it's in the abstract, so the new owners, it won't always be in our family, so the new owners then also can't develop it. Okay. We were joking about it because we have an old cabin since the 1950s over on one of the small lakes on this property, Stony Lake, and they suggested we should put something in there about how it perhaps could be enlarged, but they suggested only 20%, and so that's what it is. And I thought, well, how about there's only 3 buildings. The woodshed, I suppose that could be enlarged, and the outhouse, but I don't think we need a larger outhouse. So
you don't think there'll be a high-rise over
No, there will not. Yeah, okay.
Well, I just want to say congratulations once again to both Kay and Roger for being so generous to our community, and congratulations on receiving the 2012 Award in Philanthropy from the Willmar Area Community Foundation.